All right then. So now in order to save this user information, so let's get into our browser and search for neon.tech, which is the place where we are going to create ourselves the Postgres SQL projects and where we are going to save our informations over there, right? So in this case, all I have to do is to create myself a new project over here, and that project is going to be UI Universe or something, right? So the Postgres version is going to be exactly the same, no changes in it. And let me create it. That's it. It is being created now. Now all I have to do is to yep. Once you click the connect your database, right? So here you can see what are the thing that is needs to be done and everything. And if I click the env, this is the database URL, and this is the file, right? So here it is using the Next.js, but here you can change it into Prisma. So that is going to give you the code for your Prisma file. So let's go ahead and install the Prisma first over here. Clear. pnpm add Prisma and at Prisma slash client. These two. Install it. Let's wait. There we go. It is done. Let me clear it. So for working with Prisma, you need to install one more extension called Prisma. Please go ahead and search and install that Prisma extension as well, as because that is necessary. Then over here, pnpm Prisma init. Let's initialize. All right, so it's downloading that engine and it is initialized, and you can able to see the new file. It's been generated called schema.prisma, and you can see we have a certain information over here. Provider, which is going to be the Prisma client, output, something like that. We don't need to do that and all those things. So let me show you how to customize all those informations and everything, right? So I don't need this output. Let me delete it. Save it, right? Then all I have to do is to make sure. So here, this is the thing they're using. So you can see what are the providers. We can use the MongoDB, SQL, MySQL, SQLite, right? In this case, we're going to use the Postgres SQL. And if you check it out your env, you can see that database URL is also automatically generated. So let's click over here, copy this, let's delete it and paste it. Please make sure that this database URL and this both are same. Don't make any mistakes over there, right? So we copied and we pasted it over here. Now what I have to do is I need to create ourselves a model, right? So model, which is going to be the user model, and here I'm going to say ID, which is basically it's going to be an integer, and it is marked as the ID, and by default it needs to be auto incremented. Then I need the clerk ID, which is provided by the clerk itself, which is basically string, and each of the clerk ID needs to be unique so we can track the user perfectly. Then I need the first name of the user, FIRST, first name, which is going to be the string. Then I need the last name, which is of course going to be the string as well as. Then I need the full name, which is going to be the string. Then I need to keep the email of the user, which is going to be string, and it needs to be unique. I need to access the image underscore URL. Of course, that needs to be the unique one, right? Then um mm, mm, mm. Then along with this, we need to create an user role, because as a super admin, I can appoint any user as an admin, and I can keep the default other users as the user itself. So for that, I'm going to create ourselves a new enum role, right? Which is going to be user u, or we can define it as a u, which is the regular user, and A, that is as the admin, right? So here, all I have to do over here, define the role, just going to use the role, right? And at default, by default, every time whenever the user logged in, it is going to use the U as the, which means by default, we are assigning as the authenticated user as the user role, right? And later I need to, if I want to approve that user, or if I want to convert that user into an admin as a super admin, I can define that, because I will define the super admin ID hard coded in our environment variable, right? So here then is approved, which is going to be the boolean, and by default it is going to be false. Then whether the user is blocked or not, we need to make sure, because I wish to block that user, right? I can do that as well as also. So it's blocked, then I need to bring the created at, right? And if you wish to keep the updated as well as, you can keep the updated at, but in this case I'm just going to keep it very simple and clean, just like that. Save it, clear. Then all I have to say pnpm prisma generate. Let's generate it, because we need to generate our client. Then pnpm prisma db push this model into our database. So let's run it. For the very first time, this is going to take a little bit time, so let's wait. Patience, let's wait. All right, okay, so here we go. It is done, and our database is sync with our model. So let's close it and let's get into our tables, and there I should be able to see the tables called users. There we go, user, and you can see ID, clerk ID, first name, last name, full name, email, image URL, role, is approved, is blocked, created at. Perfect. And this is what which we need. And now all we have to do is to tunnel the user information into our database. So how to do that? So in order to do that, all I have to say, let's get into our browser and search for untun npm untun. Basically it helps us to create ourselves a local tunnel, or you can use this Cloudflare npm. This is the one, Cloudflare. So this is going to give yourself a custom tunnel, right? You can use either that Cloudflare, or you can use this untun. So basically this helps us to create ourselves a one-time tunnel where we can uh, like a local domain, like one-time domain, right, for working on a local purpose, to in order to make sure that hooks are working perfectly, right? So it is going to create this Cloudflare tunnel like for our local host, and that is going to give ourselves a domain. We need to copy this domain and go to our clerk, and we need to create ourselves a custom API hook, and that is going to tunnel that user information through this URL into our database. Once our project is deployed, we need to copy our domain and we need to update that API hook, right? So in this case, I'm going to use the Cloudflare, which is already installed globally in my machine, or you can install this one and you can simply copy this command and you can run it. In this case, I'm just going to use this Cloudflare tunnel hyphen URL, single hyphen URL, and I need to supply our localhost URL, localhost 3000. And before running this, please make sure our localhost is running. Pnpm run dev. Please make sure our localhost is up and running. Then copy this URL and supply it over here and hit the enter. So that is going to give you a new tunnel. Let's check it out. And if I scroll to the top, and there we go, this is my tunnel. So let me copy this, and if I click the link, I should be able to see our localhost in that. Where it is opening on somewhere else. So let me copy and paste it over here, and there we go. See, I can able to see our localhost application which is running through that tunnel, right? So which means this is the domain and you can access it until this CrowdFed tunnel is active. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to stop it. I'm going to close this and let me get into our clerk documentations and click the configure option. And let me scroll all the way to the bottom, and there you can see the webhooks. Click the webhooks, and here I can able to add a new endpoint. So paste it, right? So the endpoint URL needs to, after this I'm going to say /API /clerk /webhook, something like that. This is going to be our API endpoint. And here I'm going to search for user events. If the user has been created or deleted, this API hook needs to be triggered, right? So let me create it. And I can able to test it, but right now all I have to do is to go ahead and create that API. So let's go here, and inside the app folder, this is the place where we need to create that. So inside the app folder, get into the API, create a new folder called API, create a new folder called clerk, and create a new folder called webhook. And inside the webhook, I'm going to create ourselves a new file called route.ts. And this is the place where we are going to have some custom. Okay. So here, I'm simply going to say export const post route, post async, because for a user created event, it should be a post route, right? Async, then request dot request, access that request. Then inside here, I'm going to bring the try and catch. If there is any error is happening, we need to do something, right? So I'm going to say return a next response, which is coming from next server, and which is going to return the JSON object, which is going to send an object, which the first object is going to be the message. What exact message it's going to be, I'm just going to say error occurred, and the status, of course, it's going to be 500. Right after this message instance, right after this message, I'm going to create one more object, which is going to be the error, what exact that error it is. And then I need to supply that error as error object. From that, I'm going to extract the message. Then I'm going to send it, something like this. This is what the object is going to be returned if there is any error is happening. If there is no error, then I need to access the user data, const data, which is the user data from await request.json. So let's make sure everything is working fine or not. Let me check it out. If I click user created, if I send this instance, if I send this data, I should be able to see the data logged over here. If it is working fine, then the tunnel and everything is working perfectly fine. So let's say send this example. It is saying failed 500 clerk webhook API, everything is working, it's been triggered, and it is saying 500 error. Why is that happening? Is there any issues on our endpoints? Endpoint, there is no issue. API slash clerk slash webhook, API slash clerk slash webhook, event logs. I don't see any. Let's resend it. No response is returned from the route handler. What's that? Oops. I haven't did anything. I didn't even print the data itself. Let me resend it now. Resend it. And now I should be able to see the data which is printed over here. And the error what we are getting is because the no response, because from the main we haven't returned any response. That's the issue. Don't worry about that, which means our API webhook is working perfectly, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the active users, all the active users which I do have over here. Let me delete this user. Let me delete it. Okay, so even the user has been deleted, the webhook has been triggered, and we don't have any route for that specific, because we have only the post route. So that's the reason. Then right after that, instead of displaying this, all I have to do is to send this data into our user model. So first I need to create a user data which is equals to, this user data needs to be the type of user, right? Which is going to be the type of user. And if you make sure what are the things, this is the default value, default value, default value. What are the things that I need to supply? These are all the informations I need to supply, right? So let's go ahead and supply all those informations. ID will be automatically generated. So first I need to supply the first name, which is going to be data dot first name. Oops, this should be the Prisma instance. Okay, we can't see the Prisma instant, which in case that's an issue. Let's rerun this command pnpm Prisma generate. The client has been generated. If you still can't see that, let's reload our window. Reload the window. And now you should be able to import from at Prisma client user. Yep. Auto suggestion, it's not working. Maybe that's an issue. And let me get the last name, which is going to be the data dot last name. Then I need to access the full name, which is going to be a dynamic string literals, which I need to convert the first name and the last name together. Then I need to extract the email address, which is coming from data dot email address. Then I need to extract the image URL, which is coming from data dot image URL. So don't worry about that. If you don't know what are the objects which is going to come, you can get into the configure. Let me check the URL which is same or not. Yes, same only. And let me get into the webhooks. Please try to follow up over here, because this is quite a process. And if you're not making it properly, then of course it is going to be an error. And if you click the testing, and you can check the data objects over here. These are all the data instances that we are supplying it. And you can see where I'm accessing all these instances. I can simply accessing all those things from here. First name, image URL, last name, all those instances are from there. All right. Let me copy that, paste it. And last, which is going to be the clerk ID, which is going to be the data.id itself. Okay. So then one last thing, const user response, I need to save the data, right? So in order to save this data into our database, I need to create ourselves a global database instance. So under the library folder, I'm going to create myself a new file called db.ts, right? And here, and if you search for Prisma, and that is going to give that documentation for working with the Prisma. I think network is a little bit slow. Okay, so here I'm going to import from at Prisma client. I'm going to bring the Prisma client. Okay, why it's taking this much time? Yep. And now if I click the docs over here, they give you the docs how to use the Prisma with the Postgres. Click the Next.js. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, what are the things that you need to do? They give you the complete informations and how to set your database and everything. See, they give you the commands and everything. All these things, all the informations which is necessary for us, they've given you all those informations, right? So that's the thing. So here they give you the somewhere over here how to create the Prisma client. Here they given the Prisma client. Okay, let me show you. So here I just need to say const global for Prisma, which is equals to global. Use the global as unknown as an object Prisma, which is basically it's going to be the Prisma client itself, right? So now here export const db, the database instance, which is going to be the global for Prisma instance. We get the Prisma instance. If it doesn't exist, I'm going to create the new Prisma client. If the global Prisma client is existed, use that. Otherwise, create a new, because we don't want to create an instance again and again. So if the process.env dot node env, if it is not equals to the protection, if it is not equals to protection, then global for this dot prisma is equals to db. Use the local instance. If it is on the protection, it is going to use the server instance, right? So now we have the database instance, and here I need to get that database instance and we need to save the database information. So await db, access the db dot user dot create, open it. Here I need to supply the data, which is going to be your user data, which we created up over here. We ran into an issue. Let's fix this. What are the things that we are mixing it? Come on. Add missing properties. Okay, so let's ignore this. We don't want this right now, because by the time, let's ignore it because it's just a type error. Save it. And I need to, if I don't have the user response, I need to return the response as like JSON message user is not created, or you can simply throw a new error. I don't want to return it. I just need to throw a new error as the user is not created, something like that. Something went wrong, user not created. Then if it is created, I just need to return next response dot JSON object. Then inside over here, I'm going to return an instance, which is going to be a message as user created. Then I'm going to return the user ID, which is created. User response dot clerk ID. Then along with that, I need to return the status message, which is going to be the 201. So save this. This is all about that. And now let's check this out, and let me get back over here. And I'm going to send this npm run dev. Let me run the node. Perfect. And now if I click send this example, compiled the API clerk webhook, and you can see we are getting the 201 status. And if I click get into the neon, and if I refresh this database, it's taking some time. It should bring the user data. Here we go. See, it's taking some time. It's taking some time to see the changes in the database because we are not using the premium one. We are using the free one. So we are seeing that example data information which we shared, which we send or from here. Let me check only the succeeded. See, this is the data which we created, and you can see that data over here. Now let me delete this. I don't need this example record. Let me delete it and let me log in. Let me get back over here, sign in or sign up. Continue with Google. Choose the account. Click continue. And now if I check this out over here, it's taking some time. Compiled API webhook. Yeah, here we go. See, we are getting the data. User ID, it's generated, auto generated too, and user ID and my name, last name, full name, my email address and my email URL, and the role which is going to be user, and is approved and is blocked, all those things. It's perfectly created. All right, perfect. So and now let's go ahead and we can start working on the rest of the stuffs which we for right now. What we did, we created ourselves a database. We have our Prisma ORM and we created ourselves a custom tunnel, and through the tunnel we are saving that data every time whenever the user authenticated, because we created ourselves a custom webhook API. Through that API, the data, it's tunneled into our database, which is working perfectly fine. And now I don't need this, so I'm just going to stop it. Let me stop the tunnel, and later before deploying, once the project has been deployed, I'm going to get that domain name which is created for that project and update this API endpoint. It will work perfectly fine, right? Cool.